Yeah, my name's Robert Softley-Gale. I've been 20 years working in the industry as an actor, a writer, a director, and now an artistic director. Buckle Paradise Theatre Company was started in 1993, and we exist to put the stories of disabled people onto stage. We tour internationally, working in Rwanda, Japan, Brazil, Nepal, over the UK and over Europe. In 2018, we staged my life put the musical was one in Edinburgh Fringe Trust and the Herald Angel. And in 2019, we staged Purpose of Movement at the Edinburgh International Festival, which received 5-star reviews across the board. I want to talk firstly about the impact of COVID-19 from our perspective. For disabled artists, the major concern has been about visibility. Disabled people have now been classed as vulnerable during the pandemic, and the visibility of our contribution to society has been significantly reduced. Disabled artists are likely to have to steel grip for longer, will be the last people back into the rehearsal room, and are undoubtedly going to lose out on work and opportunities because of this. I and around 600 other disabled artists have started the We Shall Not Be Removed campaign to advocate for the work of disabled artists and to ensure that our visibility is not reduced as much as it might be. On the 17th of June, we had a major campaign on social media showing the work of disabled artists and showing how integral that work is to the UK arts ecology. I think it's important that in the last 10 years, what the disabled artists have gone from something quite minor and quite sidelined to be a major part of this industry, and that can't be forgotten now. The impact for audiences has been a tale of inclusion and exclusion. There was a piece of research done in June of this year where 7,000 disabled audience members were interviewed. 26% of these have said that they will not consider going back to venues at all until a vaccine for coronavirus is available. That's a real fear for us, that our audiences will just not come back. On the upside, digital has opened up theatre to many disabled people who were excluded before, many who couldn't go to the National Theatre or to the regional theatres were now able to watch it online. But it's important that we recognise that digital is not a fix-all. Online performances don't give the same experience as real-life theatre, they never will. Disabled people make up 56% of internet non-users in the UK. So while online work is great for us who are here, for many people who are not online and cannot access arts in this way. Only 37% of disabled people in Glasgow, for example, have access to home broadband. It's a very small number. And there's a real fear that when we go back to the new normal, digital content will vanish and that any sense of inclusion will disappear. We must, longer term, keep pushing for physical access as well. Digital has given a lot of great solutions, but it's not the only solution. The other impact is around the emergency payment systems. These have been welcome but insufficient to date. The tight deadlines, the requirements to have been working for set periods of time before lockdown make these funds inaccessible to many disabled people. Also, many disabled people are dealing with day-to-day practicalities, such as organising support and trying to work out where the next meal is going to come from. And this reduces their capacity to apply for financial aid. The government intervention that has worked and that hasn't worked, I would describe in this way. Job retention scheme, self-employment support has helped some companies and some freelancers. We won't know how many of these will survive for at least a year or two, so it's difficult to know how much that support has helped at this point. Support for theatre has come very late in real terms, and many disabled artists need security. So many have already left the industry, we're hearing anecdotally. Recently published performing arts guidance around reopening was welcome, but this is very high level guidance. It leaves a lot open to the interpretation of companies. This is causing a great deal of fear because companies are having to weigh up protection against the virus, against access for disabled people, and quite often we're seeing access without. Disabled people have been told that their inclusion, which they had before COVID-19, is now no longer possible because of the virus. The other thing to bring to your attention was the suspension of the CARE Act back in March. This was seen as important to allow local authorities to respond to the virus, but this has caused a great amount of fear amongst disabled people. It removed the onus on local authorities to provide social care support. Without social care support, you literally, as a disabled person, might not be able to get out of bed in the morning. So any talk of employment or of opportunities after that becomes secondary. What is still needed from the government? The self-employment scheme has worked well for some disabled freelance arts practitioners, but it needs to be extended. It needs to be made accessible to more people. We need targeted financial support in the short term. Otherwise, disabled artists won't be able to stay in the sector. They simply can't wait for 2021 or even beyond. Huge efforts need to be put into promoting equality for the wider society now. We need to change the narrative so that disabled people are no longer seen as vulnerable or as other. Now, the arts, ironically, are a great way of changing narratives. We can offer the solutions to this. When we put stories on stage, we help to reshape narratives. So we need, from government, bold moves. We need large-scale theatre productions full of disabled performers and Black performers and a huge range of diverse performers. That's how we can change this narrative going forward. Finally, to look at post-COVID and exiting the EU, there's a real fear around the appetite for touring. It's likely to be very different to how it is now. Increased barriers such as visas and the right to work in the EU will be compounded by a nervousness around international travel for some time to come. International travel for disabled and vulnerable artists is also likely to be further complicated. Are people really going to want to get in a plane next to a disabled person who have been told is vulnerable? How do we manage that message going forward? Access to funding in the medium to long term is also a concern. We're going to lose access to EU opportunities and long-term funding in the face of COVID austerity is going to be crucial. So, to sum up, there is substantial fear amongst disabled people and amongst disabled artists. Those who have made it through the pandemic, and that's not everyone, but those who have made it through are now seen vulnerable. And the leaps forward in terms of equality that we've seen in recent decades are in real danger of being lost. We need targeted funding to help disabled artists survive, and we need bold moves to ensure that the wider public see disabled members of society as equals once again. Thank you very much.